This podcast is brought to you by Flex 7 from TenCate Protective Fabrics. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology. Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tencatefabrics.com/Flex 7.
In the world of firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. That's why for over 2 decades, first responders nationwide have trusted TheFireStore as their go-to source for essential equipment, apparel, and accessories. Visit TheFireStore.com online or in-store today.
For all your medication and narcotic tracking needs, check out the LogRX app, created by career fire and EMS professionals. That's LogRX.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Backstep. This is Ronnie K in New York. And Tommy boy, what's going on out west?
I think the planet has shifted because you're getting our weather and we're getting your weather.
How about that? Well, if anything, it's dry everywhere, right? By you too, right?
Actually, we had a little bit of snow.
Oh, no kidding already. Wow.
Yeah. Not a lot, didn't stick around, but it was enough to kind of take the edge off of our dryness.
Yeah, it's crazy here, man. We haven't had rain in 2 months.
That's insane.
Now, where I live, I live in northern Westchester County, north of the city, and there are 2 reservoirs right near me. If we drive in toward the town to go to a ShopRite or some store, we got to go around them, and there's mud from the shore at least 60, 70, 80 feet in toward the center, all the way around. I mean, this thing is down. And we're living here 11 years. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen it yet. It's not good. And as you know, it's wildfire season in Manhattan, in case you haven't seen the news. Okay? You thought you were impressive with your wildfires where you are, huh? You should have seen us trying to put out a forest fire there in full bunker clothes and, doing the best we can. But we don't get them that often, I mean, this is
and
we had a couple of hundred brush fires in like 2 weeks. It was crazy. Absolutely.
A couple of years ago, I had actually learned that FDNY has brush units.
Oh, yes, we do.
Which I thought was kind of cool. And I figure Staten Island, some of those areas probably need it. But you guys don't have like the traditional yellow and green wildland gear, do you?
No. Don't be ridiculous. But we do. We got a bunch of BFUs, and they're huge, full size, 4-wheel drive, jacked up with the cage on top, the whole bit. So the stuff you probably played with for the last 20 or 30 years. And we got 3 or 4 of them, I think, on Staten Island all the time. And then there might be one in Queens. I don't know where we keep them. I don't have the chart in front of me, although it's over on the door and I can look at it. But we got a couple, and they've been busy. And actually, during this little streak we're having, they actually put them out on the road on patrol. They're out on patrol. Yeah, driving around, particularly in Staten Island and other places where we've had a problem. But, there were other places that are dry that aren't having these fires. So I kind of, you look to, what else, how else can the kids get in trouble? What else can they be doing? Well, they're warning us it's forest fire season here in New York. Let's see if we can go make a little magic, so who the hell knows, But, yeah, it's a little bit different for our guys. So we were real busy the other day. That park in northern Manhattan. I passed it on the way home. It was just getting rolling. And then before we knew it, they called for a third alarm and they relay pumping. They called in the boat and just trying to get a handle on it. But things have calmed down for the last day or two. We had it was high winds today. They had another red flag warning today. I'm thinking most people in New York City don't know what a red flag warning is anyway. But, we're looking at things like from my perspective, we have, fireworks, we have 40, 50 jobs a year. It's not just 4th of July, and New Year's Eve. So we're looking at, are we having a fireworks, when the next permit comes up, are we going to do it or not? Between now and the next time it rains. So who the hell knows, New Year's Eve, they'll have the fireworks because they're being shot off the roof of the building in the middle of Times Square, pretty far from Central Park at that point. So we probably don't have a chance of lighting the park on fire. So that should go without a hitch. But yeah, it's been pretty nutty here with that whole thing. And then north of here, where I think it's is it Rockland County? I'm trying to think what I think it's either Rockland or it's not Dutchess County. I forget where it is, but it's up around Ramapo in New York, and it touches like Passaic County, New Jersey. They got a big fire up there, and they lost an 18-year-old park ranger. Yeah, park ranger / firefighter. And it was one of these. If you try to come up with the scenario, you probably couldn't. There was a tree halfway down. It's sitting there like a widowmaker. So they'll say, let's get it down all the way. So they cut it. It bounces a little bit, hits something else, and then hits this kid. It was like wrong place. I mean, everybody was back pretty much enough, but wrong place, wrong time, and all that stuff. So they're looking at that, and they're double investigating to see what happened, and just it's a big tragedy. 18-year-old. So it just the beat goes on. You never know. The beat goes on. You and I been talking about this stuff for about 12 years. Yes, folks, we're on the air 12 years, and we've been talking about like you gotta expect the unexpected, and and just account. And we all know you could do everything right and something goes wrong.
Yeah.
We all know that, but just about
So one of the big sayings with the the wildland community is to make sure you keep your head on a swivel,
right,
and maintain that situational awareness of what's going on. You 360,
and you know what? I think that's very applicable to everything we do in the fire service.
Oh yeah,
everything. I mean, when you're at a structure fire, you got to have your head on a swivel. I mean, everybody should be doing size up, not just the officer or the IC. Everybody's continually doing size up because you want to catch things before they get out of control or something bad happens. So yeah, head on a swivel and all that. So situational awareness, we've talked about that a couple times, and like I said, just being prepared, and keeping an eye on the guy or the gal next to you. It's key. Two of my coworkers, husband and wife team, both volunteers. They live up somewhere near West Point. They got a call from mutual aid up to that brush fire. So they were there, I think they're going to say Wednesday night, maybe. They were there for about 8 hours, and they come in the next day. They were dragging. Yeah. That's hard work. And, the husband, my buddy there, he says, I'm not hurting too bad, but I'm tired, and he's in his late 40s, and she's a little younger than him. She's brand new. That was her first fire. So she just got involved with the volley. She decided she was going to make the leap, take the leap. But yeah, they talked about what happened to that young 18-year-old volunteer. So yeah, time marches on and we do stuff. So
I would.
What do you got?
I'd like to take this opportunity to extend congratulations from the Backstep Boys to Fire Chief Donna Black of the Duck, North Carolina Fire Department, who has just been appointed as the Deputy United States Fire Administrator. Going to be sitting in the big office in Emmitsburg. And we wish Donna all the luck. Ron and I have had the opportunity to interact with her during Memorial weekends. And she's got some tough shoes to fill with the other, I'm going to say young lady, at least compared to Ron and I, who had that position. And wish her the best of luck with all the endeavors.
Well, we've been. I think we've been pretty fortunate. And yes, congratulations, Donna. And I'll tell you what Dave. Oh boy, see, I'm getting old. You start losing last names. Who was the guy that Bush appointed FEMA director after Brownie screwed it up in New Orleans? Dave. He was out of Miami.
Yeah,
Dave. That guy, Dave. Remember him?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, that guy. But when he became FEMA director, what he said was, he says, "I got a secret weapon nobody else has." As being a former fire chief, he said, "I got an army of 1.2 million people at my disposal." And Donnie, you have the same thing, as a member of the fire service and especially and not even going to FEMA, but within the fire administration, you got an army of 1 million people, men and women who will be willing to step up and do kind of anything. So good luck. And you know what? We've been lucky, Tom. And they've made some great selections in the last 20, 30 years. You know, as you know, our compadre Dennis O'Neill was in there a long time as the super. And then Tanya Hoover came along, and then, you know, Eric's Gablix is in the seat at the superintendent. And now they put Donna in there, Lori Merrill Moore as the fire administrator. So we've been at the federal level, but they've been getting it right for a while, and it's great. Like, Lori did a ton of stuff, man. It's funny because when we'd hear something like she's going to do something called the World Fire Congress, and the first reaction is, yeah, right. She's going to pull that off. She pulled it off.
Yeah.
And then started this annual fire prevention and community risk thing. They just had the second one, I think, recently. So yeah, it's kudos to her, man. She's really in there swinging away. She's really in there swinging away. And I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate the Fallen Firefighters Foundation for helping her with a lot of that. She's kind of relied on them for support, especially when it's at the campus. You know, so Gary Critchbaum and Victor and his staff, they've jumped in and given her a big hand many times. But that's fire.
Like the kings of logistics.
Yeah, the kings of logistics. Yeah, no kidding. You kidding? And we're going to do it all again in May and October. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But sure enough, yes, thank you for bringing that up, Tom, because I heard about Donna about 2 days ago or so, and I thought it was great, and she'll do good things too. I won't be surprised because we're going to expect things from her. She did a nice job with the IAFC as the president 2 years ago, last year, and she's heading for bigger and better things. So, what do you want to start with tonight?
You know,
that wasn't even part of the show. That was just stuff, you know?
Just stuff. I did come across, and if you remember, the Loudoun County, Virginia firefighter that was killed at the house explosion in that county. That was back on February 16th of this year. But that was a result of a LP gas leak in an underground tank that it kind of permeated through the soil and into the building. The interesting part is the guys from the LP gas company are being charged with involuntary manslaughter and also another handful of fire code violations. This is the first time.
You're talking about the principals of the propane company?
Correct.
Charged with involuntary manslaughter. Is it what did they find? Did the investigation find that there was shoddy workmanship, or? I mean,
they didn't get into a lot of the specifics of what the indictment said, but it just kind of resonated with me that I think this is the first time I've seen criminal charges against the companies in quite some time. It's not uncommon, and there was another one recently, within the last couple of years, where the installer and I can't remember the case right off the top of my head, but they also were found criminally liable.
Normally they'll go after that, you know, that an outfit like that when the workmanship was bad, they did something wrong, the install was screwed up. But then, you know, the civil suit, that's normally they'll go after them just for the fact that they own the gas or whatever, you know. Like when you look at the Station nightclub fire in 2003 in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Okay, so who'd they go after in the civil suit? They went after Anheuser-Busch. Why'd they go after them? They sponsored the band that night. They were a sponsor. Okay, they sponsored the concert inside the hall. They went after Clearwater Communications because their guy was in there with a camera filming everything. That's the video we also. And then he stopped for 3 seconds at the door. They accused them of him blocking the egress. People couldn't get out, blah, blah, blah. So all the sponsors, the DJ booth, they go after everybody. That's the litigious society we're living in.
Oh yeah.
Interesting that they're holding the propane company liable in a lawsuit for that. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I would assume that, and I think ATF was involved in the investigation of this one, and of course we suffered a line of duty death in that where firefighter Trevor Brown made the supreme sacrifice while working that job in Loudoun County. I don't have an issue with it, especially if they screwed up. Yeah, you should be held criminally liable.
Yeah, and if my memory serves me correctly, and lately it's not, but if it does, we had something called the Second Avenue gas explosion about 10 years ago or so, and there were people were pulling gas, and there were hookups and stuff, and there was some I think plumbing outfits that they found out. They were going to go after the utility, but the utility, this wasn't them. This was others that tapped into these gas lines, and they were stealing gas and all this other stuff. So, yeah, and I don't know if it's rightfully so, but when something bad happens, not just to one of our firefighters, but when something bad happens to somebody, you have to, it's that old thing now, and it's not an old thing now. It's the current thing. It's about justice. It's about getting justice and getting some closure. Yeah. What the hell happened, and why did it happen? And let's not let it happen again. Keeping a guy like you in business for 50 years, being an investigator, what happened, why did it happen, and let's not have it happen again. I mean, that's, it's basic stuff for our business anyway. It really is. So you got something? Go ahead. You have something else?
I had to use one of my lines. As you know, I went to a fire yesterday, and the PIO was down there. He's a great guy, and he's like, "Hey, can you tell me what happened?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Somehow heat, fuel, and oxygen came together."
Did he laugh, or did he give you that look?
He gave me the look.
Oh, gee, that's not good.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we used to do that all the time in the street, and the people, the onlookers, the uh-oh squad. I call them the uh-oh squad. They come out of the house, uh-oh, they're looking around. They come over. What happened? I said, there was a fire in the house. What am I going to tell them? There was a fire. And most of them, Tommy, were good with that. Oh, thanks. Okay. And they go home. They were good with that. Thank you. Turn around and go home. That's good. So I just this current thing about batteries, lithium-ion batteries and all that kind of stuff. There's still a lot of chatter. And I was in a good conversation in the firehouse the other night in Connecticut. I went back to my old command. I got invited back for dinner. Of course, they only invited. I hope they're watching this. They hope they invited me for dinner because I was bringing cheesecake from Brooklyn. Okay, I'm just saying. It was great to see the guys and the captain and I. We had a pretty good relationship when I was there, and we kept in touch since I left. But anyway, it's good to go back and sit in the firehouse and smell the diesel fuel and all that stuff again. We started talking about lithium-ion batteries, of course, and they said that one of the cities nearby, they did what they did in the UK a couple of months ago. UK, the London Fire Brigade bought a couple of almost like roll-off containers, but they're sealed. A roll-off, you got the doors in the back. You can't put water in there. But these are big pools. They're mobile pools, and they get a lithium-ion battery car fire. I don't want to say brand names, but they get a battery-powered car on fire, and they go with a crane and they pick it up and they drown it and they stick it in the mobile pool and they drive it away, take it to the junkyard. Huh. That's good. That's good for exposure protection, but putting the fire out. Everybody.
If I remember correctly, they will burn underwater, won't they?
Yeah, the way we found that out is when this whole thing started about 2.5 years ago. We started getting calls into the projects and where the guys are. A lot of delivery guys live in the projects in Manhattan, in the Bronx, and they're using the motorbikes. The motorbikes, they're not motorbikes. They're electric bikes, right? Using them to deliver food and support their family. And we started going to these calls, and then the battery was smoking. And first time they went, they picked it up. They got in the elevator with it, and took it down. Now we know that's a bad idea, but we didn't know then. But nothing happened, thank goodness. But then after that, They said, well, let's take the battery up. Let's bring up a bucket with us, fill it up with water in the sink, and stick the battery in a bucket of water. So this particular company, they got back to quarters with the thing in the bucket, put it outside in the backyard just for good measure. And while they're having dinner 2 hours later, they see this big plume of smoke coming up. The battery started cooking off. It boiled the water out of the bucket.
Wow.
Boiled the water right out of the pail. So it was a steam event, but then they start calling people. You call battalion chief. We got a problem here, and it really snowballed into what it is now. But now one of the cities in Connecticut bought a mobile pool for the same reason. So, okay, but you're not putting the fire out, that's for sure, And you know what I'm seeing, Tom? I'm seeing blogs and some articles in reputable places that guys are writing articles about how to extinguish an EV fire. And I got my ear on this at the job. Everybody came to New York City. We've had a couple seminars. Guys flew in from all over the country to hear what FDNY is doing. And we're using something called cell block. We're using something called cell block, and we wrapped it. We put the battery in it, and we overpack it in cell block. Cell block has the ability to encapsulate. It'll get warm. It's almost like beads, and they'll start to burst, and then they'll kind of fuse and melt a little bit. So we're using that. I don't know what the tab is on that. I have no idea what the price is, but they seem to be the only ones with the market right now. So I can't believe it. And we have different things. We have cabinets, and we have drums, and we have and the loose. We have a little bit of everything. So they're all coming to us, asking us what we're doing because we have the highest rate. Everybody's having these with the bad batteries, and usually they're not the manufactured batteries that come with the bike.
Yeah, it's all the off continent stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cheap imports, and what they're doing, like in the city, these little battery manufacturing storefronts are popping up. They're pop-up battery shops where they're building their own.
Oh, wow.
They're rebuilding bad ones, and they're selling them for $50. A brand new battery with a legitimate UL on it is $300 or $400. So this guy who's supporting his family delivering pizza, if he can get a new battery for $50, he's going to buy it.
Yeah.
But those are the batteries we're having a problem with. So we haven't had many, if any, car fires. We have not had car fires that were made at the factories, approved batteries, blah, blah, blah. We haven't seen that almost. I don't think we've had any. And I could be wrong, but I know I'm pretty sure I would have heard about it. But it's what we call Frankenstein batteries. And we got pictures. We got these, we raid one of these places with our task force. It's a pack of batteries with duct tape around them, or they're in a shoebox with duct tape around it and stuff, and the terminal, yeah. So that seems to be our problem. But I'm seeing write-ups about extinguishing these battery fires, and not yet, not anything I've seen. If anybody watching this has seen something or something different, putting water on it doesn't work. It's got to run its course. You protect the exposures around it, and then it's done. And it's almost a better thing that way because there's a lot of bad hazmats in these batteries, the big batteries. Let them burn themselves off. Get rid of it. Get rid of the toxic gases. There's a lot of toxicity with these things.
I know.
Burn up and finish, and then take it away.
I was having a discussion with my brother, and I think they said they've got blankets now that they can cover a vehicle with, but I don't think they've tried it to see whether it actually works or not.
What I've seen with the blankets, or it's like a blanket / tarp, and what it does two things. Okay, it protects everything around it, and it because a lot of times the battery casings they fail, and then the batteries themselves, as you know, the lithium ions, they're like the size of almost like a AA battery. Only there's thousands of them in boxes under the car. They fly, they go flying, and they start in little fires. They're like little bottle rockets going everywhere. So when you put the top on there, it's containing the flying batteries and protecting the exposure. It's not putting the fire out. It's just to protect the exposures and to keep shit from flying around, hitting people or starting more fires. That's really what the blanket's for. If anybody knows anything different, chiefcanterman@gmail.com. Send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. chiefcanterman@gmail.com. Tried and true. If you know of a brand new chemical, I just heard of, Tom, you heard of F500? picked up on a conversation last week. I went to the Brooklyn Borough Command to talk about a facility we have in Brooklyn, and we started talking about. And the night before, they had a warehouse fire and a transformer at the same time, a half a mile away. Turns out they were related. The transformer was for the Amtrak. The Amtrak train. The witnesses said as soon as he went by, fire came out of the hole of the pit where the juice comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It was up against the warehouse, set the warehouse on fire in the street, and then 5 minutes later, the transformer, half a mile away, went up, and that was all connected to that whole thing. We had an all hands at the transformer. We had a third alarm in the warehouse, so at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of nutty. So I went to this meeting. I lost a little. See, as soon as you say the word Amtrak, you go off the track just like they do. You see what I'm saying? So we're talking about the transformer fire, and the chief from Hazmat, I'm talking to him, and he was at the fire the night before. And he says, yeah, we didn't even use foam. We used the F500. He says it went out in 15 seconds. As soon as they cut the power, the fire was out. I said, you used what? He said, F500. I said, I've never heard of that. It's an encapsulator. It must be similar to this other stuff. He says, 15 seconds. He says, I bet the battalion chief that I was standing with, I bet him, he says, this is kind of funny. He says, he makes the best meatballs in the city, this guy. I bet him a meatball dinner that the fire be out in 30 seconds or less once they shut the power. He says, they killed the power, 15 seconds. I turned to him, I says, okay, you're making the meatballs. So me being me, I never heard of this F500. So I said to him, Joe, who makes this stuff? And he gives me the name of the battalion chief, thinking I'm talking about the meatballs. How funny is that? Is that a typical firehouse answer? I said, no, not the meatballs, the F500, So, but I went on and I did it. I did a dive on the internet and I looked it up, and it's an encapsulator. It's not a foam, and we have it. Yeah, our hazmat team has it, and they've used it very successfully. Very successful.
What's the application process?
1%. It's a 1% mix. It's not even like a 3% thing. It's a 1%. You could do with a pickup tube and a pail, and it works. They said that transformer was, and it was. I asked them what was in it. I said, was it mineral oil? He said, yeah. He says 15 seconds it was out.
Wow.
Yeah. So was like that whole thing. I'm still learning. I never heard of it. But that was pretty funny. I said, who makes that? And he gives me the guy's name who makes the meatballs. I said, not the meatballs, the foam, It was pretty funny. Yeah, so again, you come across things that we haven't seen before. But getting back to the battery thing, if anybody watching or listening to this, if you've seen something, heard something that extinguishes a large battery fire, send me a note, chiefcanterman@gmail.com. I'll love to talk to you about it. Love to hear about it. I wanted to add something else. Oh, yeah. So to that end, what they're doing now, we've been meeting with our utility in the city, and they're going to start dropping battery yards into the 5 boroughs, storage yards, to store big electric. Like they're planning one for Brooklyn for the spring. They want to get it up and running because there's a section of Brooklyn that traditionally, when the power demand is high in the summer, with all the air conditioners run, everything else, that they black out right away. So they want to be prepared, and they'll put that juice into the grid so they don't have the blackout. But they're going to be dropping these yards all over. So we're meeting for them from the operations side and from the fire prevention side of the house. We're talking about, for me, I'm talking about a common fixed fire protection system for those yards, and they've already proposed a non-automatic deluge water spray system, where we have to hook up, and they're buying. They call them 6-packs. They're buying 6-packs from Tesla. I thought it was pretty interesting, and it's a double row, and a double row. So it's a 6 banks, but they're in rows of 2, and we're going to put a deluge line over the top of each one. And with its sectional valve, so we don't put water everywhere, just put it over where the fire is to kind of contain it, put the water spray over there and keep it cool until we can get the utility to respond and kill it and, shut what they have to shut. So we're trying to standardize that fire protection throughout the city for those kinds of yards. And the thing is, our main utility in New York, they're not the only ones putting these in. We deal with the utility companies. There are sub companies. So yeah, we're in the midst of a lot of stuff with the battery yards. They're going to build wind farms. They're building a wind farm in Long Island Sound, and this one of them is going to be pushing juice directly into a substation on the Brooklyn waterfront.
Oh wow!
So we got a lot going on, man. There's a lot going on.
Have you seen an increase in solar generation?
I'd say that there's a pretty decent amount of basically. It started with homeowners, with private homes,
Yeah,
and now the big commercial buildings are heading that way too. You know, the big commercial buildings are heading that way too. I haven't taken a dive into what our operations guys are doing. You know, what the field forces are doing when they got to get up on the roof, so to speak. But that's a good conversation that I'll probably have with one of the bosses next week as I write this down.
I can remember responding on a house fire years ago here in Farmington that the guy had put solar panels on the roof and had actually installed them upside down. So we got a fire at 3:00 in the afternoon, get it knocked pretty quick. Just as a coincidence, the guys that were doing the investigation on that were up there at 3:00 the next afternoon. And they're getting kind of a refracted light fire going, pretty much in the same spot where the other one was. And they're like, hey, look at these. They're installed wrong.
No kidding. Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard, again, that we have a fire issue with solar panels. But it'd be interesting to find out, because now you piqued my interest. I haven't thought about it. We're so sidetracked with the damn battery issues.
Yeah.
But that's yeah. I'm going to dive into that next week. I'll sit down with the bosses in operations and ask them what that looks like, and then I'll ask my engineering squad. We got a fine engineering squad in fire prevention. We got about 30 or 40 or maybe 50 engineers that do all the plan examinations, and they're on top of that. They'll know exactly how many applications that we've gotten. And of course, it's the initial install goes to the buildings department, but they can put us in the loop and all that stuff. So, but haven't seen much fire activity as a result of, or with problems. So, but we are currently writing new code for installation of battery systems for private homes, 1 or 2 family dwellings. Yeah, that's coming down the pike. It's actually we've already drafted it up, and it's over with the buildings department. They're looking at it. It's eventually going to go over to City Hall. But the fact is, people are going to put in these battery systems in their house. I know Tesla makes a battery system. Have you seen it?
No.
It looks like a sheet of black plexiglass.
Huh.
And you put that on the wall, and it's almost decorative. You could put it like in the living room. You could put it in the basement or whatever. And that's the battery. It's like a half inch or an inch thick, and you could hang it up, but it kind of looks nice, or whatever. And so, what do we do with this? Does it go to a central station? That's what this stuff we're looking at. If there's a problem with the system, it starts to overheat or whatever. Are we getting a central station connect? Are we going to ask the homeowner to have it hooked up to a central station, that kind of stuff. So we're just in the middle of that right now, but it's coming, because you got to try to anticipate the needs of what people are going to start doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the fire service, as you know, Tommy, we've been behind the 8 ball. We do a lot of catching up.
What?
Yeah. So we have a good relationship with our buildings department in the city, and they loop us in on a lot of stuff. I'll give you one more interesting tidbit. The city council is going to be voting soon on a bill to allow what they call ancillary dwelling units. So what does that mean? It means you own a private house. You'd love to rent out your basement for $1,200 a month. So if you do a couple of small things, you could do it. It's legal. You can legalize your basement as an ancillary dwelling unit. The proper egress, you're going to have to put sprinklers in. Sorry, but you're going to sprinkler the basement, smoke detection, CO detection, the proper windows, and the proper door, and you're on your way. That, or you could build up to an 800 square foot little building in your backyard, and they can live in there. So
yeah, when you said ancillary, it immediately kind of popped into my head of like a portable classroom kind of setup that turned into a dwelling unit.
yeah, what we other than the basement, we ruled out attics. We said no attics. We're not going there. But if a guy has a 1-story ranch and he wants to if he wants to take and put a second floor on and make that like now it became a 2-family, he just goes through the normal building department stuff and does, fire separations and all that, and just creates a 2-story house out of it, so that's covered. But basically the conversion of basements or adding a baby dwelling in the backyard is something we're looking at. They're going to be going to a vote soon, but this was an absolute 50-50 joint operation between the building department, the fire department, and the office of the mayor, and everybody was in the boat together on this, and it's been a great experience, seeing that happen rather than things getting snuck in from somewhere and all of a sudden there's a new law and it's okay,
Oh, you mean somebody was living in my basement?
Yeah, right. We didn't know, It's like the 16-year-old girl, like she didn't know she was pregnant until the water broke. It's like you see that on the news. Yeah, she had no idea she was pregnant, and then her water broke this morning in the girls' room in the high school. It's like what, So I don't know, but so we got a lot of things going on in the city. Enough about New York City. Everybody's tired of hearing about it. Tom, what are you hearing about the we talked about the new emergency response standard out of OSHA. We had Billy Goldfeder on a couple of months ago, and he got it off his chest for a while. And then we kicked it around last month with Wayne. Was it Wayne?
No, Mike.
Oh, Mike. I'm sorry. I'm getting bad with names. That's old age, man. But kicking it around with the chief from somewhere in the Midwest.
Oshkosh.
Yeah, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Boy, I owe him a couple of apologies and a lunch. I'm sorry, buddy. We love you. You did a great show with us, but just it's the age thing, But we talked about it with him. We want to remember, if you remember, Tom, we wanted his perspective from like a mid-sized department, versus a small volunteer department versus a big municipal department like Boston, Chicago, New York, whatever. So, but I haven't seen much in the fire press on it lately. Have you spotted anything in the fire press?
Once I think the initial shockwave kind of let up a little bit. We had a discussion, or at least I had a discussion with the county fire chief out here, great guy. And we got kicking around some of the compliance issues. And as we had discussed when Billy was on, and conversations that you and I have of, trying to do an audit on where are we compliance-wise now and what needs to take place. And I know David took it to the county commission just to kind of give them a heads up that, this is coming. And it may cause some changes, but until that, kind of assessment gets done to see where you're at, it's basically just living on paper right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I haven't seen much, but there's been a little bit of conversation, there's been like little pockets, and it came up in the firehouse the other night. We were talking just briefly about it. But at the end of the day, I think, Tommy, as we discussed, it's going to be one of those things like NFPA 1500, and Mike said, yeah, it was just like, he had fun with that, because we thought Brunacini and all his buddies lost their mind back then.
Oh yeah,
1500 was, are you crazy? We're never going to do all of this, and here we are all these years later, and most departments are doing most of it, and risk assessments and shit like that. So this is going to be the same thing. But if you really read it, and I'm making an appeal to all our brothers and sisters out there who are already waving the banner and you're ready to charge up the hill and say, we're not doing this. If you read the whole thing, you're probably doing half of it, if not 3/4. Okay. One of the big bones of contention, and I'm not sure why, is training, and mostly training for senior officers and chiefs and deputies and all that in incident command and in leadership and management and going for those the real good IC courses and how to manage an incident and all that kind of stuff. What beyond what we had to do with ICS 100, 200, 300, 400, 700, 800. Tommy, did you take ICS 10,000? It's 6 months. I remember doing that. It was ICS 10,000. It was 6 months. I sat there. It was crazy. But anyway, just kidding. But this is the real deal stuff. This is National Fire Academy and Incident Command and maybe the blue card system. I know, Tommy, you went through the blue card. Some real deal stuff. And you know what? A lot of our volunteer brothers and sisters, they're all like, no, we got enough to do. But you know what? This is what we do here. This is real stuff. This is life and death stuff. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have, the right training and the right chops to get out there and do the job. And those days are long over in the small communities and the volunteers where you vote for the most popular guy to be the fire chief and all that shit. The days are over. Okay, the propane guy is getting sued or getting charged with manslaughter. Imagine being the chief on the scene and doing something bad. You're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send us your address. We'll send you, we'll bake you cakes, man. You got to have your ducks in order. And shit, we know shit happens. We know that. And nobody's perfect. There's no perfect system. But you got to at least get some credential that says, yeah, I took this training. This is what happened. Things go wrong, blah, blah, blah. But to not do anything at all, and you know what? Billy made a great point. Billy talked about you could sit down with your local OSHA guys and say, we'll never pull this off in 4 years. We could probably do it in 6 or 8. And they're reasonable enough. They really are. They're reasonable enough to say, okay, give us a plan. Write up a plan. Give us a long-term or short-term plan. And at least we're on the books, and we know that every year you're going to do something else. First year will be ICS. Second year will be safety, or vice versa, whatever it is, until you get your ducks in order and you're running on all 8 cylinders, like they say. But it's not insurmountable. It's not impossible. It's just not. And I don't care. And right, everybody's screaming funding, and something simple. I will just say, they talked about that with the grants and safety and everything else, and buckle your seatbelt. The life safety initiatives. It didn't cost anything. The seatbelt's already in the rig. Just buckle it. So there's a lot of low hanging fruit. There's a lot of free stuff out there. That's the other thing. Every chief of every department. I need $1 million for training. No, you don't. No, you don't need $1 million for training. There's a lot of good free stuff on the internet. Let's concentrate more on that. Than how much more chrome we could put on a new rig. And that's not pointed at any one type of department in any particular town. Everybody wants chrome on a rig. I get it. I'm a fire buff myself. But we get down to brass tacks. We got to do what's good for the members of the department and for the community. And that's really what OSHA's position was, is we need to do better for our communities around the United States. And I think one of the things Billy said was through doing the training and the community's better served. Yeah, served. We're giving if you're a volunteer, you take an oath. Or career guy, everybody takes an oath to say yes. We're going to do everything we can to protect our people from fire and other disasters. So you're supposed to do everything you can. Okay, so I don't want to stand on a soapbox here, but take a good look at it, give it a good read, and figure out where you're at, because you're going to have to sit down with somebody, or your town, or your city, or your town fathers, eventually with the big OSHA guy to say, listen, you got to comply with this. There's going to be a date. Start working on it now. Just get ahead of it. Get it. Just like you watch the crime shows when the detective says to the guy they caught, you want to get ahead of this, okay? That's what happened. The same thing. Get ahead of it. And I think Mike said that. He said he's already working on a plan with his guys, with his officers, to say, all right, what are we not doing, and what do we need to do, and how are we going to do it, and get ready, because it's coming. It's like a train coming down the tracks. It's going to come. It's going to break through the barriers. It's going to get this. So just a little bit of advice, Thomas.
Speaking of the things that firefighters hate to deal with, which is change and the other one is things remaining the same.
I hate those two things. Exactly.
Hate that. But and I have to apologize because I wasn't paying much attention to the changes we're seeing in incident reporting and the new initiative of going from NFIRS to NERIS is the new acronym going out there. That is the National Emergency Response Information System. And there was a webinar, kind of a rollout for this back on October 29th. And they've been kind of messing with it since back in March of this year. And they went and I think originally there was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 departments that are beta testing it, if you would. And those are Fairfax, Virginia, Frisco, Texas, Orange County, California, Springdale, Arkansas, Upper Marin Township, Pennsylvania, and the West Metro Fire District in Colorado. Like I said, I haven't watched the webinars, but we certainly have the opportunity to go back and look at some of that stuff. U.S. Fire Administration has been kind of spearheading this, but the other big player in this stuff is UL's Fire Safety Research Institute has been working hand in hand with the U.S. Fire Administration to kind of get this thing moving. There's now 50 departments that are beta testing the new reporting software. If you don't have time to sit through the webinar or try to catch some other stuff on the internet, I did find a
there it is.
Is on the internet, and again, it can be downloaded from the Fire Safety Research Institute's webpage.
Outstanding.
Now,
Outstanding.
There's a word in here. In fact, it's right there.
Schemus. Schemus?
Yes. I had no idea what that was. I had to go look it up.
Okay, so what is it? Don't keep us in suspense.
It's a plan.
A schemus is a plan?
Yes.
Why couldn't they write plan?
I'm wondering the same thing, brother.
Oh, my God. You know,
but this has got some pretty good overview information. The document's only 11 pages. It's a quick download, and it'll give you an overview of where we're heading with this stuff. And a lot of it has to do with not only the data that we collect that goes into the old NFIRS reports, but also how to tie it in with GSI stuff. And I noticed, Ron, that one of the 50 departments that are now beta testing this, believe it or not, is the FDNY. And I know some things are slow to change in the city, but have you guys heard anything on where you guys are at with it?
I have not, but I made another note. You're giving me homework, man. I gotta go in on Monday, and I got to attack a few people and find out what's going on with some of this stuff. But I haven't really heard a lot about it. I really haven't, to tell you the truth. But,
and I think it's still in its infancy, but it's, you know, the old NFIRS legacy fire reporting stuff is going to eventually disappear.
Yep.
And I'm sure states are going to start ramrodding some of this stuff that say, hey, if you're reporting to us to where we're reporting nationally, you got to get on the program and start moving along.
You know, when I was in Jersey, I was on the code council for 16 years, and we met every month and looked at code and all that stuff and changes and recommendations, and then we'd hear other things. And the guys from the state, from the Division of Fire Safety and the state fire marshals. They back then, I'm talking about the through the 90s into the 00s. They were desperately trying to get the fire departments to even get on the NFIRS system. We only had like 40% of the fire departments going in, and they didn't know what to do. They come up with all kinds of programs, and they were like trying to entice. And unfortunately, it was a lot of our volunteer departments. They just like, we're not doing that, but they don't understand the value of statistics and numbers. They didn't get it, So like I think the state when the thermal imaging camera thing came along, I think the state, if I remember right, I could be wrong, but if I remember right, they said, if you sign up to do NFIRS, we'll give you a free camera. It was like getting a free toaster at the bank, but they were trying everything, but they just couldn't get, close to having as many departments, a good majority report out. But you have to, those numbers, that's what works, man.
That's all part of planning and strategic initiatives, and everything kind of boils back down to that. We got lucky here in New Mexico with the fire marshal's office kind of managing what they refer to as the state fire fund. And what happens is 2% of the fire insurance premiums that are sold in New Mexico go into a fund to help fire departments. Now, if you want to dip into that, you better be reporting your incidents.
That's nice. That's like the exempt association they have in New Jersey, but that's for the firefighters. It's not for the fire departments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some sort of premium in there or whatever. I think they do that. I think there's something out of the insurance premium that pays for that. But yeah, there's got to be some incentive. But they shouldn't have to be. If we can right now, we'll make our appeal to the Fire Service of America is report your incidents. It doesn't take a lot. The new NERIS system, for what I understand, I haven't seen it. It's a little easier to use. It's more user friendly. Report your incidents because the numbers talk. That's how, when we first went to Washington back in the late 90s and started talking about the American Fire, the Fire Act grant program, the AFG. It was like, well, what do you got? What's the fire problem in America? How come you need this money? Why do you need millions of billions of dollars? And at first brush, it was like we didn't have anything to tell them.
Yeah. So
that's when the move really came on. So listen, if you guys want some free money here, you're going to have to start giving us numbers. And it got a little bit better. And then we were able to say, this is the state of the state. And we got small departments who can't afford to buy equipment and on and on and on. So, but the numbers are important. That's what the politicians, that's what they're looking for. Give me numbers, give me statistics, give me, that's the only way you're going to get some stuff. So everybody has to play. Everybody's got to be in it. I like your system. We going? Where are we going?
It's medical.
See, I put mine on vibrate because we'd be interrupted every 4 minutes. So I put mine on. So I see him coming in, but I'm not saying a word. I'm being good.
So I was going to hit you up on, I saw Billy G's and Frank Lieb's book advertised.
Yep.
And I know you've got a great interest in historical fires. And you were starting to collect some data on some of those incidents. How's that project going?
It's going well. I'm almost to the point where I'm going to start thinking about looking for a publisher. But the goal is 70 fires. Right now, I have 68 fires from 1800 to the beginning of this year, and I only took fires where 20 or more people were killed in that fire. And unfortunately, I could title the book 70 Fires, 12,000 Dead. That could be the book. 12,000 people died in this book. So, and it'll be a kind of a reference book, but not necessarily, because the write-up on each fire tells the story. What happened. And of course, the fires that we know about, that everybody knows about, are in there. The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, the Coconut Grove, the Beverly Hills Supper Club, the Our Lady of the Angel School in Chicago. You know, the big, but there's a lot of other ones a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, the Collinwood School in Ohio, you know, the Collinwood School, 172 kids. So there's a lot of stuff, and then I didn't just stay in this country. I went abroad. The last 20 years, there have been some horrendous fires overseas in all countries. A lot of them nightclub fires, even after the West Warwick Station nightclub fire, there were similar fires after that in other places. Like, didn't you get the message at all? You know, it's like, so yeah, the book will be dedicated to the 12,000 people who needlessly died in these places due to negligence of others, lack of codes, or other things. So it's coming along. I'm getting ready to look around and talk about publishing and all that kind of stuff. So and I'm learning still. Again, here we are, still learning, Tom. You know, I got hit my 50-year mark, and I'm still learning. You know, I learned about F500 extinguishing media and meatballs at one sitting. Okay, and now I'm picking up fires. Let me just throw you one. Here, I haven't heard about this fire until 6 months ago. The Collinwood tragedy, the worst school fire in American history. You know, and never heard of it. You know, and I'll put it up there again. This was in Ohio in 1908.
Okay, I was wondering what state it was in.
Ohio, 1908. And of course, everybody, when you talk about school fires, we talk about Our Lady of the Angels, 95, mostly kids, a couple, I think 2 nuns and a maintenance guy. This is 172 dead in this book.
Wow.
So, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that as I'm digging, I'm finding. Like I said, I started in 1800 and went up to recent, and where 20 people lost their lives. A couple of hospital fires, a prison, the big penitentiary fire they had also in Ohio. That was in Ohio as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
that one. So I did a plug for Billy G's and Frank's book. I was teaching at the college for the fire academy here in Farmington, and young minds that are out there, man. They just keep getting younger and younger.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got a story to tell you. Go ahead.
But I was like, if you guys want a good perspective of what it was like and where we're at today, I said, you got to get this book.
Well, and they told me, they both of them told me, Frank and Billy, they said, we're out there lecturing and we're referring to these fires and we're assuming they know about it.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is what happened at Wallbaum's. This is what happened in Hackensack. This is what happened. And they're staring at us saying, what are you talking about? So that's what kind of pushed them on to say, you know what? Let's get 30 of these together, 23rd Street fire, whatever, and get it out there and let the next generation at least read up on what the hell we're talking about. So we got talking about fixed fire protection systems, sprinklers, standpipes, all the rest of that stuff. And I said, we're going to look at a case study, and we went back to One Meridian Plaza, the fire in Philadelphia that killed 3 Philly firefighters in that one. Yeah. And even though it was old, I think that fire happened in 93. 91.
Okay. I think it's still important for them to go back and look and say, here's some of the inherent problems that caused that fire to occur and grow the way it did. But we learn lessons from that stuff.
I still use Meridian for 2 different classes that I do. I do a class on fire protection systems, okay, concerning operations, and I do one called "Fight the Fire, Not the Building," which is using the fixed systems to fight the fire. Don't fight with the building, fight the fire, and use everything inherent to the building. And I have the American Heat video on digital, and I show the they did a great report on that fire, and I had the VCR version, and I converted it to digital about probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I have it in my computer. I still use that as a case history. Case history, and I teach a very basic high-rise 101, and I use it for that too. And it's because the information contained therein is still relevant.
Well, and the other thing is that there was such a comedy of errors that occurred with that, between the pressure reducing valves being installed improperly. And then I guess the best lesson learned from that is when it hit the 30th floor and the sprinklers went off. I think 10 heads put that fire out.
And that's how that video kind of ends for me. When we say that, I shut the video. I said, does anybody have any questions about this? Have you all picked up on the fact that 10 sprinkler heads stopped that fire after it went up 8 floors and killed 3 of our guys? And they were all like, yeah, wow, boy, they must work those things, Well, they do, And so, yeah, I use Meridian myself, but the less, like you say, the lessons learned need to be heeded. But I think the book is a great idea. It's timely, and what my audience is the whole fire service for what I'm doing with the historical fires. But I'm hoping that the fire prevention, the fire marshals and inspectors and all those people get more out of it to use it when they're trying to make code changes or whatever they're trying to do in their jurisdiction. Listen, we want to pass an ordinance on sprinkling any licensed places of public assembly, theaters, catering halls, restaurants. Oh no, we're not passing that law. Hold on a second. I got 25 fires here in the last 30 years that killed 800 and something people in places of public assembly. We need to look at, so hopefully they can use it as, we'll call it ammunition, if they're trying to do code changes, if they're trying to get things done in their town. So I'm hoping it kind of makes its way that way. But yeah. Oh,
I got
good, buddy.
And I thought this was kind of interesting, and I know a little bit about some of the background up in New York State, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this because my Yiddish is not good. But Matzalia Ash is a firefighting group, apparently serving the Orthodox and Hasidic communities in Rockland County, New York. And they're encouraging people to call them direct to report their emergencies and bypass 911, which I don't think is really a good idea. But it's something that the county sheriff, in the one article I read, has referred to them as kind of a rogue fire department. I know there was some issues in Crylus Joel down in Orange County a couple of years ago, but it looks like it's kind of rearing its head a little bit. And I didn't know whether you were kind of up to date with some of that stuff around. What's going on with it?
Well, I haven't heard much. I just heard like rumblings recently. The religious Jewish community, they're a very close-knit, closed community. The town of Curious Joel, people call it Curious Joel. There's no one guy named Joel who's curious. Trust me, it's Curious with a K. They bought the whole town. I've heard that. Yeah, they bought the town. They own the town, and they have their own council and all that stuff, and they do what they do. But the fire department thing, I haven't heard too much on. But as you might know, Tom, they have their own volunteer ambulance service anywhere where there's a religious community in the United States or the world. There is a chapter of the Hatzolah ambulance.
Huh. And I knew they operated in New York City, but I didn't realize they were outside the boundaries.
They're in Lakewood, New Jersey, and they're in Rockland County. They're all over the world. If there's a religious community, they're from what I understand, they're the largest volunteer organization on the globe.
Wow.
On the globe, and they're able to raise money from their own people. They don't go outside. If they need a new ambulance for that particular ambulance corps, there's a town meeting or a group meeting, and they raise the money, and boom. And I know that when I worked in Jersey, some of the sales guys in Jersey that sold apparatus and stuff, they would stop into my place, and I order some stuff, and I said, how's it going with the other tribe, so to speak? And they say, oh, they're buying an ambulance. And I said, what are they buying? He says, he said, I love when they call me. He says, when they order a piece of equipment, it's got every single bell and whistle available on the market. And if we can't get it, they want us to make it for them, wherever it is. So, they buy a lot of equipment. They're good. I haven't heard the fire story yet, but I wrote that down too. Boy, you gave me a lot of homework, man. You gave me a lot of fun.
I was
damn
curious because the sheriff made the comment about a rogue FD and the requirements as to what level of training they were doing, and they seem to have bypassed the New York State Academy system. But they sent their guys to Bergen County, New Jersey, to the academy there.
Interesting. Yeah, it's first of all, it's closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fire academy, the state academy, up in Montauk Falls, New York, is a bit of a ride, and I don't think they do live training in Montauk Falls. I'm not sure, but I know Bergen has a nice facility. I've taught there many times, and I'm not surprised because the ambulance thing. That's been around a long time. It's been around probably better than 40 years, and they grew and they're in the system. They're running all over the city. You see their ambulances all over the city. They even put on recently. There was some chatter about within the last year or two. They had to put on a contingency of women because the men and the women are kind of separated in that religious sect. Even like when they go to temple, the men sit on one side, the women sit on the other side. And that kind of stuff. And at a wedding, the men dance with the men, like they could make a large circles and they kick their feet and do all those traditional Jewish dances. And the women dance with the women, not slow and sexy, but these community dances. So that they don't dance together and that kind of stuff. So they put a contingency because they got calls to go to a house, and you got a woman is either pregnant or sick, and the men can't put their hands on her at all.
Huh.
So they ran into an internal religious issue. So they had to start recruiting women to get their EMT so they can put an all-female crew, and depending on the call. And that community, they call them directly. They sometimes they go to 911, sometimes they don't. If they do, they tell them you got to send the hot solar ambulance to this house. Don't send us another ambulance. So it's an interesting dynamic what's going on. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and I remember back when it was it was almost a little contentious down in Orange County. But I think they came to some type of an agreement because one of the Orange County fire departments actually is covering Crylis as maybe not as the initial response, but they've got units coming in behind them in the event of a working fire.
Listen, nobody could do it alone. You got to have mutual aid in those communities. Oh, yeah. You got it. So, but where did you see that written up? Do you remember? Where you saw
I think it was on Statter 911.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. Trying to think so that was in, you said Rockland County, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to figure out. Oh, I know somebody in Rockland County. What's his name's from Rockland? Jerry Knapp, I think, is a Rockland County guy.
Huh.
Yeah, I think he's a Rockland County guy. So maybe I reach out to Jerry, see what's going on. But always something going on, right, buddy boy? That's for sure. I think also on a down note, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but that it's been this crazy brush fire season because it's not raining anywhere, and they don't expect any to rain soon, and we're kind of getting in trouble here on the East Coast, on the Northeast. But they arrested a volunteer fireman on Long Island last week for starting a brush fire out there, and
it's still going on.
It's not the first time, and I know, Tommy, you were involved years ago with a program called Hero to Zero, and sure enough,
that and I'm sure I've told you the story before, but I had published an article in The Voice, the instructor magazine. And that led to me being interviewed by Dan Rather on 6.
You told me that. Yeah.
just it's one of those things we don't talk a lot about.
Right.
But as I was going to bring in, and probably a good time, the book of the month, if you would.
We always talk about books, man. Bring it in, pal. Let me get you on the spotlight here. Hold on.
This is the largest arson case in the history of the United States. And the book is called Burn, Boston, Burn, written by a gentleman by the name of Wayne Miller. Wayne's a retired ATF agent and wrote, this story needed to be told. Hey, look at that. The thing that it was a big conspiracy case, but the people who were setting fires were fire buffs,
Yep,
police officers, and firefighters.
yep.
And a lot of it stemmed from the layoffs of police and fire in the city of Boston. But it is probably one of the most interesting reads that I've had in quite some time. And I know Wayne's been doing the kind of traveling dog and pony show at arson investigators conferences. He's got another book out now that I've got that I haven't dug into as much as I should have, but it's Bang Boom Burn is the name of his second novel.
Let me write that down. Bang Boom Burn. When did you read this book about Boston?
Probably about a year ago.
Okay, yeah, I read it about 2 years ago, and I will tell you on behalf of Tommy and I, the top of your head's going to explode when you read this book.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not going to believe what you're reading. But they were a group of buffs, and they started out with kind of, in their mind, they had good intentions.
Yeah.
Boston was laying off firemen. They said, you know what, if there's more fires, the city will have to put those guys back. So they were lighting, some vacant buildings or whatever, but it got out of completely.
It got crazy.
Wow.
The one of the more prominent buff clubs in the area, there was some headbutting going on between this group that was setting fires and other fire buffs. And they went in and set the Buffs clubhouse on fire.
Yep. But they used to meet at the Dunkin' Donuts at night with their scanners and decide where they're going to set. And it went on for a long time.
A couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years, right? Yeah. So yeah, we don't want to give it away, but yeah, this book will blow the top of your head straight off. It absolutely will. It absolutely will. You got another one?
I pulled one out, and I can't remember where I stuck it.
Let me see if
but
I
found when I was looking for this one, I found on the shelf Nick Brunacini's.
Yeah, I'm looking at my book thing now. Go ahead.
Bee Shifter.
Oh, I read that years ago.
Yeah, but I found it extremely humorous.
Oh, it's funny as hell.
It's Life in the Firehouse.
That's one of the funniest fire books I've ever read. I called him after I read it, and I said, hey, how you doing, Nick? It's Ron Cannon. Hey, Ron, how you doing? I said, I just read your book. You're out of your friggin' mind, right? And he goes, yeah, I know. And we hung up. That was it. It was hysterical. It was absolutely hysterical. Where's that book called The Fires? There's a book that's written. It's called The Fires, and it's about New York City in the 70s. Under the Lindsay administration and Robert Moses, and it's how they cleared the South Bronx, where initially they put extra companies in the South Bronx, and then they pulled them on purpose so there'd be more fires. They would do some urban renewal.
I found that to be rather disturbing.
Also, blow the top of your head right off.
Well, it also kind of blew my doors off. I mean, O'Hagan was kind of a
keep talking. I'm going to look.
And, some of the shenanigans they were dealing with, twisting the numbers around and some of that other stuff. There it is. Yeah, I think I got the Kindle edition.
Yeah, it says The Fires, how a computer formula, big ideas, and the best of intentions burned down New York City and determine the future. And what they're talking about is they hired the Rand Corporation. And Rand did all these calculations and numbers, and they weren't far off on what they were coming up with. But it just didn't work out the way they hoped it would. Way to move fire companies shutting houses and all this other stuff. But yeah, that also this book, The Fires, take the top of your head right off. Yeah, no doubt about it. So I don't know if I got anything else that's brand new. I'm looking on my shelf here. That might be it for now. What do you say, Tom? I think we had a good night here. Are we
It's
done?
always a good night when I get to hang out and converse with you and the rest of the planet.
Me and the rest of the planet. There you go. All right. So, Tom, you have a roll call tonight?
I got the roll call, and we last recorded the show on October 15th. And since then, there's been 4 line of duty deaths that are listed on the USFA database. Scott Glass on October 20th from Perrytown, Texas, was struck in the head by a hose coupling and fell and passed away from those injuries. Garrett Miller on October 21st, Barstow, California, suffered a heart attack. Robert Sharkovich Sr. on 10/22 in Weatherfield, Connecticut, had a rollover at a fire in a little utility vehicle. And Marcelo Garcia III on November 6th from Houston, Texas, who was killed in a wall collapse. As always, we ask that you heed the lessons that they have left behind and pray for their surviving family members. Ron, that's all I got.
I'll say amen to that. So, being it's November, we've had some striking large loss fires. The one that comes to mind, the biggest one in November, was the Coconut Grove nightclub in 1942. 495 people were killed in that nightclub, and things have gotten better since, thank goodness. Although in 2003, all the years later, we still had 100 people get killed in a nightclub in Rhode Island. So we still got work to do. When I say we, I'm not just talking about the fire prevention people. This is the fire service. This is all of us. You're on the line, you're in an engine, a ladder, rescue, whatever you do. Get out there, look at the buildings in your district. Don't just look at the buildings, look at the people when you walk in. Okay? And make it as safe as possible for them and for you in the event you got to go there during a fire emergency. So with that, until we're up on the back step next time, have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. And be safe, slow down, buckle up, eat right, eat light, use your head, stop for red, watch how you drive, arrive alive, buckle up every time. And when you hug your family, hug them tight, tell them you love them, and kiss them goodnight. So that's all I got. What do you think of that?
All right. Stay safe, everybody.
This podcast is brought to you by Flex 7 from TenCate Protective Fabrics. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology. Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tencatefabrics.com/Flex 7.
In the world of firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. That's why for over 2 decades, first responders nationwide have trusted TheFireStore as their go-to source for essential equipment, apparel, and accessories. Visit TheFireStore.com online or in-store today.
For all your medication and narcotic tracking needs, check out the LogRX app, created by career fire and EMS professionals. That's LogRX.com.